wonderful world of YouTube, wonderful internet people. What we're about to paint right now is a painting that was inspired a couple years ago, and it's about a homeless person that I saw, an unhoused person that I saw, living on a corner and pooping on the world. Basically, you're just taking a dump in the middle of the street. And you see that a lot, sadly, in Los Angeles. This is a common sight in Los Angeles. If you ever visit Los Angeles. And this isn't a criticism of Los Angeles. I'm not saying that Los Angeles is a bad city. I'm just saying that this is technically, the fact that I'm pointing this out could be a criticism of Los Angeles. But as far as the city of Los Angeles, amazing city, but it definitely has a homeless, unhoused problem. A lot of unhoused people. And, some of those issues happen for all sorts of reasons, but I've decided that I'm going to make a painting about it. I want to do a painting that, not necessarily, I'm not trying to address it, I'm not trying to solve problems, I'm just trying to capture something that I saw. And that is the goal here. And how we're going to do this is we're going to start let's start by drawing this out here. So I want the street level, I want the figures to basically be, if I was to separate this little section here, we're going to have a street here. Let me sketch it out with an oil pastel. Or let me see, I'm going to have that here. I'm going to have this other street going across. This is going to be, have a large sidewalk here that cuts up through the middle. Trying to imagine what the site was that I saw. So let me see. Let's lay some tape down. Where's my tape? So, and that's why I titled this "A Homeless Man Pooping on the World," because, what is a homeless man doing or a woman doing when they're pooping out in public on a public sidewalk? What are they actually doing? They're pooping on the world. They're pooping on the city for, all the things that have happened either to them or because of them. You can't blame people for everything, right? You can't blame someone for struggling, to figure out how to thrive in today's world. You really just can't put the blame on them for everything. So that's why I titled this painting, "Homeless Man Pooping on the World," or I'm going to title this painting "A Homeless Man Pooping on the World," because, when a person poops in public, on a public sidewalk, it's a horrible sight, but what are they doing, right? They're just pooping on the world. They're giving the world a piece of themselves. So that's the goal of what we're working on right now. That's the painting idea, the painting concept. And I need to lay out a few things before I get started here. What's up, Maria C? How are you? And I'm trying to think of how I want to display this. Does that look straight to y'all? Does that look fairly straight? I don't want to be overly precise, but I do want some precision. And here we go. We're going to raise this up a little bit. This is going to be where the See, the rule of thirds, we'll put the thirds right here and the other thirds right here. So I want the other point of attention to be happening right around here. Let's see how that's looking. That's fairly straight, right? It was glorious. You saw a lady walking on the street, drop her pants, poop, and pull her pants up and keep walking. Freaking amazing, right? Like what a message that they're sending. I've been into places like CVS. CVS, I'm calling you out. And, you know, on one hand, I can appreciate the plight of the CVS worker that constantly has homeless people going into their store, maybe like leaving their marks everywhere in the bathroom. But on the other hand, I also know that CVS lies all the time about having a bathroom available to the public. There's no way that 90% of the CVS's in Los Angeles don't have a public bathroom. There's no way. It's just impossible. But I can understand if, you know, there is a, you know, they just, on one hand, it's annoying, but on the other hand, I also, like, understand that, like, there are people that go in there and, like, do stuff to the bathrooms. So, you know, how do you balance that? I don't know, but it does annoy me that CVS does that, and I just want to put that out there. But right now, as I plan out my painting, I'm thinking of the plights of the homeless person. You know, no one really cares about homeless people. No one does paintings about them. No one makes stories about them. And I don't know why I felt like today would be a day to make a painting about a homeless person, but I have, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's see here. I got the rule of thirds. I'm just thinking overall composition here, how I can do this composition. I think I'm going to focus the majority of the work in this third here. So what I need is to separate this building. So this is like a building here. It's a wall, and I'm going to separate this wall. I'm going to separate this wall. Let's see, separating this wall into thirds. So I'm not gonna be too perfect with this, but just separating a nice wall, creating a nice wall. And you know what? Like, here's the scary part. You know, I'm doing this painting, and probably no one's ever gonna buy a painting of a homeless person pooping. But so I have to spice it up a little bit. You know, this isn't gonna be realism. So if that's what you're hoping, do not expect realism. This is not a tutorial on how to paint a homeless person pooping on a road. This is a tutorial, if anything, on, well, it's not really a tutorial at all. It's just me painting something that I decided, and that's the title that we're going to name it. So, homeless man pooping on the world. And honestly, if I was homeless, I would probably poop on the world too, once in a while, you know? Like I'm not homeless, and sometimes I will feel like pooping on the world. You know, just walking into a CVS and being like, yo, okay, I can't use your bathroom, watch this. You know, like, sometimes I feel that way. But, so I do not, you know, I'm not upset at, like, just don't do it in front of a school, right? Like, if you gotta go, and Whole Foods, now I'm not gonna say Whole Foods. Whole Foods always has a nice bathroom, and they always let you use it. But if you're homeless and you try to go to CVS, CVS is like, are the worst people on the planet when it comes to bathrooms. At least in Los Angeles. For whatever reason, they do not like people using their bathrooms. It's like these pharmacists, whatever. But anyway, I get it. If you're a CVS employee, you probably had to clean poop off walls. So, you know, I can't blame you. I can't blame you, but when it happens to me, I get upset. And you know, I can only imagine a homeless person without any place to go in a hot summer, just want to use a bathroom. They stop in, you don't let them use it, and what else do? They just drop a load and throw it at your window. I mean, you know, I wouldn't say that that's the most ethical thing, but hey, people are people. They have emotions. I am just grateful that I have a bathroom that I can use on a daily basis. So that's that. Anyway, I'm trying to compose this right now, deciding how this tape is going to come down. It's actually quite important. You know, if you get the composition right, the rest of the painting can look pretty good. So I'm thinking that this is about a third, and this is where the action is going to take place. And it's going to feel a little bit empty. But yes, keeping it spicy, keeping it real. Like, this isn't even spicy. Here's the funny thing, here's the funny thing about this story about Los Angeles. Like, to any other town or American, you know, like good American city, or like city across the entire world. I don't know, if you go to like a major city in Switzerland, and this is not my letter of discontent with Los Angeles. I'm just sharing the truth of the matter that's kind of off. This is that if you go to any really like good city in the world, rarely are you going to see a homeless person just pooping in the middle on a street corner. Rarely. Like, maybe New York, maybe Los Angeles. What's up, Omizu? I'm talking about this painting right now. Definitely Los Angeles, maybe New York. I don't know, like Portland. I don't know what other cities, but here in Los Angeles, it's pretty normal because, sadly, it's the norm. Because I've had conversations with people where they've literally just said, "Oh, well, I was just walking down the street today, and you know, somebody was pooping on the side of my house, or on the side of this like house," and you know, that's like a normal thing. That's a normal thing. Like, they said it like it was totally normal. They didn't call the cops. They didn't complain about it. They were just like laughing about it. It was like a funny, everyday occurrence to them. And that is sadly the norm in Los Angeles. So, funny enough, as I'm making this painting, and you know, and your YM says that it's spicy, but in Los Angeles, that is pretty much a norm. That is not spicy. It is not controversial. It is not deep thought. It is not any of those things. It is just a normal occurrence to see a homeless person pooping in the middle of a road, of the sidewalk, driving past the highway, walking down the street, stopping in the middle of a crosswalk at a green light to drop their pants. Like, it's a normal thing. It's happened. It happens. You know, walking around with a bottle of wine, taking a swig, and then throwing it. But anyway, I don't like that it's a norm, but it is. So, you know, what can I do? What am I to do here? And I feel like I should raise this section up a little bit, maybe to the center point. Make it less about this wall and more about this center point here. So let me see if I can pull this off and put it back on. I want to lay this down. Here we go. So I want the figures to be pretty central. So I'm going to raise this sidewalk, and we're going to have this sidewalk like right around here, because it's not about this wall here. It's about these two figures. So actually, I might even raise this to just slightly above the center. Trying to think, really figure out this rule of thirds here. develop a composition. What I'm doing is trying to figure out a good composition for my painting. And, you know, let me talk through this. Let me stop complaining about homeless people. Or I'm not really complaining. I'm really trying to share the story of their plight in Los Angeles. Let me stop talking about that and talk about the art. Let's talk about the art. So here's the idea is, right now I'm trying to compose, right? And I'm using the most basic rule of composition ever, the rule of thirds. You separate your painting or whatever, your photography, whatever, into 3 sections. So equal thirds, right? So 1, 2, and then 3. And wherever you want, so you do it also vertically, so 1, 2. So you only have 2 lines, but you have 3 sections. And anywhere that you want people to focus their attention is where you would put, is where the lines go. So you have the third 1, 2, 3, and then you have the lines, and it's on those lines that you want to position the things that you want to focus on. And if you want extra bonus points of focus, you put them right on the corners. So the corners where they intersect is where you get the most interest, That's the most, this is like the most basic 101 composition rule there is. You probably learn it in every single compositional book there is. There's no like, yeah, it's really that basic. So I want to give myself some space right here. We're going to separate this into 3 major colors because this is a street scene. This is a scene from the street. And let's see. So we're going to go up here. Oh. And here's something else I got to think about. So if I draw like this, so if I go like this pretty much needs to end like here. Let's see, how big do I want this? I want this to be about the same size as this, about the same width. So it goes like that, like that. I think that could be accurate. And then we do a line coming up like this. We do a line coming up like this. That could work. All right, let's try that. Let's do another line. So Mizu, what's going on, dude? Red graffiti with excrement. Yes. What's going on, dude? How are you? See you making some fascinating and amazing, new projects. Good old La Demoiselle d'Avignon, making a good old Picasso. And Mizu is recreating a Picasso piece. Isn't that wonderful? La Demoiselle d'Avignon. La Demoiselle Madidon, Badambadon, Badillon. La Demoiselle d'Avignon. La Demoiselle d'Avignon. D'Avignon. I can't really spell that, but I can say it. So I actually practiced saying it for like 5 minutes one day. I was just sitting around trying to figure out how to say it, and I was like, La Demoiselle d'Avignon. All right. So we've got the basic foundation of our painting now, and let's just do the background here. So I want to get a razor, a little razor, helpful little razor here. Let me throw away some garbage real quick. Demoiselle d'Avignon. The G's silent. Silent G's. Silent G's, oh G's, 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 G's. What happened to my razor? Ah, there it is. Okay, cool. Demoiselle d'Avignon. Got my handy dandy razor, safety first. Always use a safety razor if you're gonna cut something. All right, I'm probably gonna use a lot of gray, so let me lay down some gray here. Excuse me. Coughing in your ears, so inappropriate. So let's start with some gray. I'm gonna start with a nice dark Payne's gray, and we're gonna go drop it, drop it, drop it low. And let's see. You ever do something just for the sake of doing it because you feel like it, not because, you know, you think someone's gonna buy it? Yes. La Demoiselle d'Avignon. All right. Oh yeah, the other thing is if I want to do the rule of thirds, so if this is fairly accurate, I want to separate this section also into thirds. So this section right here is going to be separated into thirds, which means I want my figures to pretty much be like right here. I want the majority of action to take place in this little section right over here. All right, so let's get like this. Got my nice, thick, juicy brush right here. I might take a different brush. Yeah, I'm going to go with a different brush. Let's go with this nice, thick brush right here. And let's start with some gray. Just going to start with some dark gray. Let's go. Let's bring our brown in with our gray here. We're gonna go, boom. This is gonna represent concrete here. Brown concrete. The Payne's gray smells so very strongly. I don't know why it's so dang strong, but it is strong. So this isn't actually gray. It ended up being more brown than gray. That's okay. The final piece, nobody will know that my original intent was to make this really dark gray and it just ended up being brown. None of you are going to tell anybody, right? You swear. If someone's bidding on this at Christie's, you're not going to shout out, he didn't even know that the color was brown. He wanted to do gray. He's a horrible colorist. He doesn't even know how to pick the color gray. I say these thoughts sometimes because I feel like some artists don't say certain things because they're afraid of what, you know, investors or people that buy the paint will think. And for now, I fortunately don't have to have that worry because I only have a few buyers. Not enough that I have to worry about what I say. I mean, ideally, I could just paint and let somebody like Omizu do the talking. Which reminds me, I should have made this a duo live stream, Omizu. I don't know if it's too late for that. I mean, it is too late for that because I can't set it up unless I start the stream over. Then we would lose this entire like analyses of homeless in Los Angeles. And I don't know if let's make this a yellow brown. We're gonna add some yellow into this floor here. And we're gonna apply some color theory into this a little later. You know, go for like a yellowish brown, just spread it across. You know what, yellow and brown for me almost never seem to like come together in a pleasant way. So maybe I shouldn't have done this. I don't know. But worst case scenario, at some point later, I can paint over it. I've definitely tried this color before, and it just looks so, ugh. It's like, what is that color? But maybe that's what we should reflect. But then part of me is also thinking, what if I just make it like this bright, happy color? This happy color of this homeless person pooping on the world. I got an offer today to sell my life. I don't want to say sell my soul, but to sell my life to AI. And you know what? I know some of you probably saying you shouldn't do it, but I'm pretty sure I did. And by pretty sure, I mean like the contract hasn't gone through. Hasn't fully gone through yet, but yeah, I have sold myself to AI in some way. So I don't know how much yet. It's a by case basis. So there's going to be, this is a project that's still in development. So I can't mention too much about it, but I do think it's a funny thing that, you know, they have certain rights to me and my content, but not like to every single thing that happens in my life. But you know what, we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's used for good. You know, I read the contracts a little bit, and you know, it's going to be mostly used for good, I believe. Let's blend this yellow down a little bit. I really just want to make this nice and flat, but I don't. Maybe, let's see if I can flatten it with some. Rather than using a brush to try and flatten it, I'll use a. Will I be the nice voice for Siri? Yo, Connie T. CT. CT. I haven't seen that name in a while. Haven't seen that. That's a familiar name. CT. CT. All right, let's just lay down great paint. Let's use our hands for this because the brush just simply is not working. Let's lay this down with a brush. We're gonna dip this in some mineral spirit, and we're just gonna spread this. But yeah, if you weren't here for what I just said a moment ago, I don't know. I sold myself to AI. I sold myself to AI. They offered me some money, but it's still like, not, they don't have like a full value yet because they have to do an evaluation of all my content that I've ever created. All 3,000 hours of content that I've ever made. But we'll see. Maybe you will see versions of me in AI sometime in the future. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But I will be getting paid. So I will be getting paid. Yeah, I will have my brain in an AI. I don't think this gray is going to work here. All right, so anyway, let's try to fix what we just did, which is make a mess. I'm gonna get a little bit more mineral spirit here, dip it in some minerals, minerals, and just wipe it across this section because this section is the section that has like the thickest amount of paint. And here we go. So we got our initial layer here, very dirty, muddy brown. Let's see if we can, let's use some paint in a little bit of gray at the bottom here, just so it's kind of like an even, dirty brown here at the bottom. So what's up, Connie? How are ya? How is Connie doing? What got me into painting? Painting is something that I've wanted to do for a large part of my life. I grew up watching Bob Ross like any other kid, getting books on drawing. And I had a couple phases. But here's the funny thing. When I was a kid, I would actually try to draw Bob Ross. Now, don't ask me why I was such an ignorant child that would think that you can draw a painting. So like I would watch Bob Ross and think that I could draw what he was painting using his same brushstrokes and stuff. And I don't want to criticize anyone else for that, so I'm trying to choose my words carefully. But I don't know why I thought that would be effective. Anyways, I would watch Bob Ross, but I never painted. I never, wanted to. I would never got myself to invest or get my parents to invest in paint supplies. And, as a kid, I drew, what kid doesn't draw on their shoes or on their wall or whatever, right? What kid doesn't do that? Every kid does that. But I never really got into it. And I would get in trouble at school for stuff that I would draw. You could probably guess what I would draw based on getting in trouble. But so I would get in trouble. So all these things were like pushing me away from drawing and art, mostly myself. And at some point, as an adult, about 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe even like 10 years ago, I started thinking, hey, what if no, it's great that you're back, Connie. What if I pursue just drawing? Why don't I pursue? What stops me from painting? Why do I not want to paint? I mean, why do I want to paint, but I don't do it? So I was wondering, like, what's stopping me? I can paint. I would love to paint. And at the same time, You know, I was trying to like figure out what's stopping me. Why do I stop myself from doing something like painting? Is it the money? Is it, you know, fear of failure, fear of success? What is it? What is it that's really preventing me from picking up a paintbrush? Because it's not that hard to like learn how to paint. So I finally realized that there are probably a bunch of like self-limitations, limiting blocks, whatever you want to call them. And I finally got into digital art. But when I got into digital art, I realized that's not my thing either. I don't like digital art. I did that for about a year, went to a digital concept art school. And I dropped out of that program because I didn't like doing digital artwork. And someone inspired me, one of my mentors inspired me to go do physical artwork. And so there I was a few years ago doing digital art and concept art. And I was like, let me pick up a paintbrush. And I was definitely like drawing and stuff by that time. You know, doing sketches, sketchbooks, things like that. But that's the long story. That's probably the long extended version of that story. Now I could actually expand on this if you really wanted me to. You know, like the real question is, it's not what got you started, right? Because like, we all know what gets us started in doing things. We all have that feeling, that urge to go do something. And either we overcome the reasons stopping us from doing it, or we actually just go do it because it's a non-issue. We all know what that feels like, right? We all know that there's something deep down inside of us that wants to go become a musician, to play in a band, to draw, to start a business, to write a book, to make a friend, to, you know, buy a nice gift for our friend whose birthday's coming up, right? We all have these urges. We know what it feels like. We know the things that get us to do, you know, the things that we want to do. So I think the real question is like, what really keeps you going? What do you like about it, right? That's what you got to like figure out is, what do you like about art? What do you... So Connie says, your sister loves painting. You never got into painting. You like watching people painting. Hey, yeah, that's right. Like, that's for sure. Like, sometimes you don't have to actually enjoy the process yourself, right? Sometimes I like to watch people play video games on YouTube. You know, I'll just watch a live stream of a random video game. Not for long. That's not something I do regularly, but once in a while, you know, I sometimes watch people reacting to movies. I watch people talking. I pay to go to a movie theater to watch people talk on a screen, right? People do these things. People watch, right? So, like, there's so many movies that are just talking movies, people talking to each other, and people love to watch it. They make good money doing it. Now, not everyone likes it. Some people get bored by talking movies, but some people love it. All right. Anyway, let's get some white. Let's grab a lot of white here, and we're gonna grab some of our gray. And this isn't the proper way to mix colors, but you know what? I care, but not too much. So this is how I'm gonna lay down a color. Just gonna put down a bunch of white. Let's actually lay this right across here, get a lot of white. Let's take a palette knife and just start mixing this color right on the palette here. Let's just spread the white right onto the palette here. Spread the white across. Get some more gray. I'm gonna get up on this palette here. Get some white, lay down some more white. This isn't the proper way to paint, by the way, people. Like, You know, if your art teacher saw you painting like this, they might pull your brush out of your hand, your palette knife, and be like, dude, what are you doing? That's not the assignment. Depending on your art teacher. There's some instructors that you hire them to learn a specific way of doing things, so it makes sense. I was making fun of art teachers just now, but you know, the reality is if you hire an art teacher to teach you how to do a certain thing, then they should definitely pull a paintbrush out of your hand if you're not doing it right. You know, like if you're learning how to drive and you know you're doing something wrong in the car, the teacher should definitely take over the steering wheel if you're not doing a good job, if you're driving recklessly, right? So, but I was making fun of teachers, painting teachers right now. But definitely, you know, if you hire an art teacher to help you become a better artiste, and I mean an artiste in the super what word am I looking for? In the super artistic sense, right? If you're asking someone to teach you how to be more creative, how to find your artistic style, your voice, your to really hone in on your ideas, to really hone in on experimentation, then, you know, if they're pulling the brush out of your hand, unless it's like for something, you know, they probably shouldn't be pulling out a brush out in your hand. Maybe they should be sticking a power drill or an axe in your hand and having you go to town. That's just my philosophy, though. My philosophy, my thoughts on things. But digital art sucks. Artists are the watchers. What do you mean by that, BK? What's up, BK? How are you doing? Good to finally catch you. I know you've been involved in my conversations, but I haven't seen you on my live stream in a while. So it's good to see you. Why am I having such a hard time getting my paint to spread? Usually, oh, no. Look at that. Look at this mess. Okay. Look at this mess I made. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. You know what? We're going to let that stay. We're going to let this mess stay. We will allow this mess to stay. We're going to let this part just be. Allow it to be. If I really want to, I know at the end of this painting or at some point down the road in this painting, I will be able to fix this, the spreadage, the slippage, the drainage, oops. I just don't want it dripping into the, is this? Got it all over the table. I just don't want it to get all over the table. That's what I was going to say. All right, so once you've had some basic art class, you paint any way you want, unless you're doing something specific. Exactly, yeah. So, you know, Brian expanding on the idea. Wonderful. There you go. I love that we can discuss ideas. So here's a funny thing. I went onto Reddit, and this is why Reddit pisses me off so much, is that you can't have you can't share an opinion on there unless you're really, really, really good with managing your words. Now, there's some people that can like share a controversial opinion on Reddit, and they could get like thousands of upvotes. I don't know how they do it. They just like write it in a way that like protects themselves. I don't know how they do it, but and then there's some people like myself who shares an opinion on Reddit, and somehow everybody disagrees, everybody downvotes you, and it's just not my spot. Reddit is just not for me. I don't know. Some people have a gift of sharing things in a way that people actually like. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what's it called? When I went on to Reddit the other day, and there's this group. It's called Artist Lounge. If you want a very toxic art Reddit subreddit, go to Artist Lounge. It is incredibly toxic. Everybody there, like 90, not 90, maybe like 2 out of 5 posts is someone that doesn't even like art asking if they should continue doing art. So it's that I consider that a toxic mentality to be around. Not like toxic masculinity, but toxic as in you don't want those ideas feeding into your head, right? Like not enjoying the work, all those things. You don't want to be surrounded by those types of words. But anyway, back to the point. What I was trying to make was that I was on a Reddit group the other day, and I shared something that I learned from a mentor of mine, and I put a tag in front of it. It said discussion. It was a discussion tag. Literally, all I wanted to do was hear what other people had to say, but all people were doing was downvoting me and like laughing. Like they would say, "Oh, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard because it's so stupid." So you know what? Reddit is not my spot. I don't know how to deal with Redditors, but anyway. Bob Ross, ideas suck. Artists watchers, nice fat brush. Bob Ross, words suck. Yeah, I mean, you know, there are some people I just don't know. They just have a knack for like communicating on Reddit. So Reddit doesn't work for me. There are places that actually work. You know, a platform I really like right now that I think is going to be a huge hit, and if you're not on it, you're missing out, is Threads. But, you know, definitely more for people who are comfortable and open with sharing ideas, opinions. It's not really like a place for self-promo, but it is definitely a place for sharing thoughts and ideas and connecting with a community that you want to connect with. So loving Threads right now. If you're on Threads, definitely connect. I have it under the same profile. But honestly, I feel it's almost like, you know, it's a great place. It's a great place. Now, if you ever want motivation, if you're like, I really, you know, want to do some painting right now, but I just can't get myself to do it, or I don't know if I'm good or whatever, I would suggest actually visiting the Reddit Artist Lounge sub. Now, I said it was toxic, but here's the thing. What you find on that sub, and I've said this before, is like literally the most toxic people when it comes to art. These are people that are like, and I don't know them. They're all anonymous, so you know I can only judge based on what they write, the merit of what they write rather than who they are. So I don't know who they are, but like, you know, some of them are like, just they don't like art. They don't like. They are suffering just to like get themselves to get up and paint. And you know, again, there's a place for mental health, right? There is a place for mental health, but if all you're doing is posting on a subreddit about art, then you know I don't think that is a place where you should be. I guess, you know, people should always seek help wherever they need. But my point is that there is a lot of, there's so many people that don't even like painting or drawing, that if all you do is enjoy yourself when you paint, if all you do is even pretend like you like to craft or paint or draw, if all you did is pretend like you're an artist, like you are 1,000 steps ahead of anybody or of a lot of people on that sub. It's a very low threshold of what it means to be an artist on there. So anyway, get threaded. You're focused on dental health. BK suffers. BK suffers. What is BK? Oh, Brian Keith's kid. BK, are you suffering right now? BK, what are you doing, man? Let's help BK stop suffering. I'm not saying we're gonna end his suffering. I'm just saying let's all give BK the live stream and let him share what it is that he feels he needs to get off of his mind. Oh, okay, so BK's at least not suffering for his artwork. Okay, thank goodness. Whew. Ryan, you had me like... You know, it really is true that whoever you spend, the 5 people that you spend the most time with, you will end up being like. And my idea for my live stream is to never be a person that would, to only be a person that would help to elevate you as a person or an artiste. I can't control what y'all do, but I can control what I do. And hopefully through being surrounded by me in this live stream and these interactions, that somehow, somewhere along the way, your life is better. And then, you know, once you go outside and touch some grass, then, you know, you can exist in the real world. Well, anyways, okay, BK is not suffering. Alright, so what color should I make this? I got this like brownish green. It doesn't know what color. This does not know what color it wants to be. This is a sidewalk and these are buildings. All right, let me see what I should do here. You know where I messed up? Excuse me. I need... I need this gray color. It's gray brown. I also need it up in here. So anyway, BK, this is a street corner scene. Yes, it is a street corner. Sword fighting with the canvas. Yes, this is a street corner. How did you know? How did you know, Omizu? Is it because my painting is so brilliant and accurate that it is just so obvious? Thank you. Thank you for validating how great, how accurate I am with this. You know, I really should just probably just go into the bottom with this color as well. So here we go. You know, I swear, I know, I have a feeling that as soon as I start doing this painting, I'm gonna get all these. Like when I started this painting at the beginning of this live stream, I said, rarely do I don't really know any artists that spend their time painting homeless people or painting about homeless people. But something tells me that as soon as I start working on this painting and getting some more progress, or even when I finish, my Instagram feed is going to be bombarded with people that were incredibly successful at making paintings with homeless people. And I'm going to start seeing Instagram videos about all these artists that have like gallery representation, and they've got a show right now of them painting about homeless people. I have a feeling that as soon as this painting progresses, I'm going to see more and more of that on my Instagram feed. That's the one thing about Instagram that's really amusing, is that anytime you like do something, Instagram shows you like the 500 people that do what you do, no matter how niche you are. You could be a person who plays trombone with your anus, and Instagram would somehow find 500 people that are better at playing trombone with their anuses, and then put them in front of you and show you how it's done. And these will be award-winning anus trombone players. They will be award-winning. They will be recognized, and which means that there's no place for you in that society of anus trombone players. Ha! Let's see AI filter that message. Connie Teague likes my... Thank you so much, Connie. Thank you so much, CT. First you thought I was doing some abstract. No, this is not abstract. No, nothing. I mean, there's going to be some abstraction, but it's not what we're going for. So we got like this brown. We got this gray. What should we do up here? What color shall we put up here? So doesn't this starting to feel? This almost feels like a really basic, what do you call it? Digital image, doesn't it? Like someone tried to like put out a bunch of squares on MS Paint or something. It feels so basic. This is amateur. I can't paint something that looks like it could have been done on MS Paint in 30 seconds. That would be embarrassing. That would be if you want to insult this painting, you should just say that looks like it was done on MS Paint in 10 seconds. It's crazy though. Like what I'm doing right here literally could have been done on MS Paint in 10 seconds. Gray, brown. But here's the fact: is it actually took me like, I thought this first came to my mind like years, like not years, but maybe at least a couple months ago, of like, what if I do a painting of a homeless person? And then it's just been like brewing in my head, and I've been trying to like figure out how to compose it. You know, it took hours of me sitting at work, thinking of like how I'm gonna compose this, and whether I should do it. When all I needed was some MS Paint, and this could have been done in seconds. But whatever, that is the way of the Pentor. So I'm actually not going to need my oil pastels. I'm going to close up my oil pastels right now. And let me see what I could do. I'm trying to think of a good color to do this. I'm gonna go. I got an ochre. Got some nice ochre colors right now. A lot of ochre. Let me grab our red. Grab our ochre. We're gonna lay this all down right on the canvas here. Grab our red. Ochre definitely looks like peanut butter. The color yellow ochre. Alexa, what does ochre mean? O-C-H-R-E.
Ochre is a natural earth with a color range from yellow to orange and red. It is a mixture of hydrated oxide of iron and earthy materials and is neutral to pigment.
Ah. So, ochre. There you have it, folks. Ochre is obviously it's a pigment, but this is yellow ochre, so it's a very earthy color. Tiger Morph made you smile. Which part? Oh, title made you smile. Well, hey, if you want to hear the story behind it, it's a lot to repeat. But yeah, that is, if you really want to get the full idea, because I feel like sometimes when I say things the first time, especially if they're really off the cuff, the first time really is the best. So I won't be able to repeat the speech that I made as well. So I'll summarize it here, and if you really want to know more about this painting, you can go back to the beginning of this stream and, make some judgments there. But basically, I was inspired to make a painting of a homeless man I saw pooping on a sidewalk. And ultimately, what I aim to do is capture that idea in an essence, but part of the idea is to I already lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Part of the idea is in the title, right? Like, what is a homeless person doing when they're taking a poop on a sidewalk? They're pooping on the world. I mean, I can only imagine a homeless person that's been kicked out of McDonald's, kicked out of Whole Foods, kicked out of Bonds, kicked out of CVS for wanting to use the bathroom at a gas station. Given that there's a lot of homeless people, maybe they should just be forced to sign a waiver that they won't spend more than 5 minutes, and they're not going to pee on the walls or throw poop on the walls or whatever, and that they're gonna leave it nice and clean. I mean, I think everybody should sign that agreement. But, my point is, I'm not saying all homeless people do that. I'm just saying that, I feel like when I go to try to use a public bathroom, some places in Los Angeles pretend like they don't have a public bathroom available because they don't want to let homeless people use it, but they also can't let regular people use it because they can't discriminate. So, that said, that's the title of this. If a homeless person's been kicked out of everything, people have been literally or figuratively pooping on them, what do you do? What can you do? you leave your mark for the world to see. And I understand that. I've never felt that way as far as, you know, being as downtrodden and disrespected as someone without a home. Can't say I've ever truly felt that bad. But I can only imagine how bad it would be. And, you know, I would probably do a vengeance poop myself on the world. I don't condone this behavior, and definitely, you know, don't do it like by a school or anything. But if your life sucks so bad that, you know, you're sleeping on the streets and you can't afford clothes, and, you know, nobody cares about you, I don't blame you. So anyway, I gotta go grab some mineral spirits. I'll be right back. So I actually got some new mineral spirits. I used to use Gamsol. But now I use Studio Solve. I don't really have a reason except for the fact that which reminds me, I should probably open the doors, air out the room a little bit after. But anyway, I stopped using Gamsol because I tried to buy some Gamsol and I couldn't, like, they wouldn't sell it to me. I tried to buy a gallon of Gamsol, but I guess they didn't want to sell it, so I've totally moved to a different brand. For whatever reason, they would not sell me a gallon of Gamsol. Given that I was trying to get it on sale, so maybe they just didn't want to give the sale price, or maybe it's just to get people interested, but I'm choosing not to use Gamsol. I went with Tuscan Pine. So this is just a odorless mineral spirit, but it doesn't mean that it can't harm you. Don't drink it. It looks like water. Don't inhale it. What I'm gonna do is I use a little dropper. If I see him again, would I tell him that he inspired me? You know what? I don't know. Like, Los Angeles has so many unhoused people, but if I do, I mean, I wouldn't know what he looks like. Like, you just pass by so many homeless people, and oh, this isn't gonna work. I need to literally. But yeah, if I happen to see him, you know, I would consider possibly being like, hey dude, here's the painting. Trying my best not to spill all my mineral spirit everywhere. So what I want to do right now is take some of these mineral spirits and just drip it here across the top. Honestly, I'm not sure if I like this thinner because it's kind of like forcing the paint to like catch. It's kind of making the paint catch rather than spread. And I don't know if that's because of the paint that was already on here or what. But I feel like it's not acting like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just not acting how I originally expected. But it could also be because I threw this yellow ochre on that's kind of old. And the yellow ochre is just, you know, an old color. Old paint. And here we go. So why did I pick orange? I was actually going for like a more yellow, like a off yellow. But it has turned out like a really bright orange, so we're just gonna stick with that. And this yellow ochre is really sticking to the canvas, like as if it was already dry. It's crazy. Like I know I have enough paint on here to cover the whole space. And here's the thing, I don't do well with hard edge paintings. I don't know, I just, like how can you fail at a hard edge painting, right? How can you fail at putting tape down and painting things that have perfectly straight lines and still fail at that? I don't know, but somehow I do. It just does not suit with my personality well. But I'm experimenting, I'm pushing myself to do things that I don't really feel most comfortable with. Maybe it's my color theory sometimes. Sometimes I'm guessing it's like my color theory. you know, when I put colors together using hard edges, they don't create like the best. Maybe it's like composition. I don't know. I don't know about anybody else, but for whatever reason, when I try to make a hard edge painting, which is a hard edge painting is basically a lot of modern paintings, and a lot of modern paintings have this look on it of like a very hard edge, right? So a hard edge using tape or a stencil or a mask of some sort, where you paint, you know, you paint over something and you can clearly see the delineation of the edge. All right, very nice. There we go. We got a nice dark, bright orange there. Now let's take off the tape and let's do the reveal. I can't even do like the tape painting right. Look at all the color that went through. Oh, such a failure. Kidding. People, don't talk to yourself the way I talk to myself. My live stream should be titled "How Not to Talk to Yourself When You're Painting," because it's bad. It's bad. You should only say positive things to yourself, like, "Ah, look at these happy accidents. Look at this beautiful little mistake that I made that will make my painting look even better. Look at this wonderful happy accident. Ooh, look at this smudge. Isn't that great? Isn't it wonderful that we have something exciting to work with and fix and repair?" Voila. Now what should I do? Now that I'm going to need to separate these areas. So let's grab a good flat brush here. So it's summertime, which means I'm not going to have as much ventilation when I paint, which is a horrible thing when you're doing oil painting. So I don't know. I don't know what I can do about it. Alexa, what's the temperature right now?
Right now, it's 87 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, 87 degrees. When will it end? All right, I need some more gray. Let's go with Payne's gray again. Yeah, it's really hard to paint during the summer because it gets so hot outside. You have to have some air conditioning on, and I'm very glad I have air conditioning. I know some people who live in Los Angeles who during the summer do not have air conditioning, and it's horrible. Alexa, is it a legal requirement in Los Angeles for landlords to provide air conditioning?
I don't know that one.
Alexa, you're useless. All right. So let's start with our hard edges now. I don't even think you can really tell the difference in these colors here, these two bottom colors. But I'm just gonna do it anyway. Let's do it. Let's keep it moving. Keep the colors moving. All right, and let's see. I don't know how I like this color separation here. It's just like really dark into like almost a very dark gray, and there's not enough separation. I might have to do something to it, but I at least want to get the color zone first. All right, so there we go. Let's flip this around a little bit. Now flip it around. Let's get some of this orange paint along the top here. And let's flip this so we can't paint this bottom stripe here. like this upper stripe. No, not this way, that way. And let's go like this. We're actually gonna paint across the top here. Get our color across the top. Let's go boom, 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 just right across the top. I think as far as whether you're supposed to do this when you're painting, I think the general rule is, it's up to the artist really. But I've seen, how they look with it and then how they look without it. I tend to like it better when you fill the edges, when you paint around the edges here. I just think it looks nicer. It feels more complete sometimes too. Rather than just like an abrupt end around the edge. Oh yeah, okay, where was I? I was over here. Stop changing the subject, Emmett. You're working on one thing and now you're working on another. It's not how you work. It's not how you do it. Alright, oops. Go. And let me see here. Let's go across down there. I should probably be using a different brush for this. AKA like an angular brush. I'm using a flat brush right now. But sometimes flat brushes don't work the best for this type of situation. Actually, a lot of times they don't. I think angular brush is the way to go. Let's see if I can find a good angular brush. Gotta use the right tools, people. Where else can I lay this down? Let's see. Got a lot of extra paint here. It's fine. All right, just FYI, people. After this line here, probably gonna take a definitely gonna take a little break after this line that we're about to make. Just gonna finish this line here. Finish the line, then take a break. Finish the line, then take a break. We're gonna come back later to finish the rest of this. Let's go like this. See, there we go. This is much better at creating the lines that you want. This is what literally like one of my least favorite parts of painting is doing hard edge painting and then like painting in these goofy lines. I swear, this is my least favorite part of painting. Anytime I do something like this, I'm like, why am I doing this? Yes, here I am suffering for my art, and I was just talking about how people who suffer for their art are toxic. Don't do something you don't enjoy. Which, you know, the only reason, like, you know, I still just haven't figured out a way yet to do this. Except, you know, I think maybe it might be possible if I actually wait and let it dry and then do this layer, do another layer. I think that could be a solution. But other than that, I really have not, you know, I don't think there is a solution to this. Like, I don't like this part. I do not enjoy this very much. Let me see if there's another way. Angular brush could work. Maybe if I use a small brush. It's okay. It's actually working a little bit. All right, here we go. So honestly, if I could hire AI to paint the hire an AI to do this part, I probably would. If I could hire like some art guy, just $10 to just just paint all these perfectly, I probably would. I would totally do it. But when the idea strikes, you don't necessarily want to be trying to find someone to do the painting for you. But I know there's someone who, there's probably people out there that, you know, there's probably an artist out there who loves the idea of creating this like perfectly straight line. And you know, maybe I would enjoy it more if I had the right, just the right brush for this. Or if I just, you know, patiently waited for the paint to dry and then did the whole tape thing on top of it. Which that could probably work too. And you know, like whenever I paint, it always looks pretty rough too. Never really get these paints. I think it's the paint that I use. Usually the brand that I have trouble with is, and I'm making a note of this, right? This is more like a note to self. Winsor Newton. For whatever reason, Winsor Newton paints. This is the second tube that I'm actually complaining about. My other tube was a Van Dyke Brown. And I think these are great if you're going to cover large areas. If you just want to cover large areas with some thick paint and then you don't mind wasting paint, then it's great. What happens is it just has like this like chalky texture, and I don't know, like, I think maybe if I add more oil to it or something, it might spread better. The spreadability out of the tube is not very oil-like. It's almost like a it's got like a texture to it. Let me just see. Let me add some oil to my brush here. A bit of walnut oil is what I like to use. Let's just see how it. You know what? That's a little better. I'm complaining and I'm just not using my tools right, but the oil is definitely helping it spread a little better. So, you know, Winsor Newton out the tube, I think just needs more oil. That's not bad. This is okay. See, sometimes when you're complaining, you complain about nothing. It's just all in your own head. Because all I needed was some oil to help me spread it better. Now it still has like a texture to it that I don't really like, but we'll let it sit. And you know what? Let's go. I think this section, this all is one sidewalk. So let's go. We're gonna go down into this area right here. Actually, I might even just stick this through. I said I was going to finish after this little bar here, but I think we're gonna go ahead and continue this. Just stick it through to the end. I really gotta know, is there any artist that actually draws or paints for 8 hours a day? I don't know. I have a hard time believing that. Because even like the most productive worker at a company, you know most people only average about 4.5 hours of work a day. Like if you actually look up the research that's done in an office, for every 8-hour schedule, the amount of work that's actually done only accounts for about like 4.5 to like 6 hours. So here we go. And just going down with the gray here. This is a Payne's gray that I'm running down with. I almost feel like it's more like a black. I don't know how they decided that this is Payne's gray. But the gray that goes into Winsor and Newton is pretty much like a really, really light black. It's almost black. And I've definitely had Payne's grays before that were a little lighter. This gray I had to mix with the white. So that's how I got that gray. But as for Winsor and Newton, I was just talking about that a few minutes ago. Like, they make great tubes that you can just, buy off the shelf. Hopefully you get it from, Michael's at a big discount, because I don't think they're worth full price. When, you get from Gamblin, if you're patient and you keep an eye open, you go to Gamblin and you could get imperfect tubes. So imperfect tubes, here's a paint shopping hack. Imperfect tube is basically a tube of paint that's deemed imperfect by the manufacturer. And there's a handful of companies that sell them for a huge discount, anywhere from like 50% off to like 70% off these tubes. And you could buy them in bulk at a huge discount. And it's just amazing. And sometimes they might have just added a little too much oil, or for whatever reason they deemed it as imperfect for human consumption, artistic consumption, and they just go ahead and move it along to sell it at a huge discount. And as long as you know how to manage paint, so if it's too thick, you add more oil. If it's too oily, you dry up some of the oil, or you can add chalk. So those are the two tricks, right? Reverse. You just reverse the idea. If it's too thick and too much pigment and not liquid enough, then you add oil, and if there's not enough oil, then we should clean this up. If there's not enough oil, then you add oil. If there's not enough pigment, you can add things like chalk. So I actually learned the chalk thing from an artist class on Udemy. And supposedly back in the day, like in Rembrandt's days, they did scans of paintings from Rembrandt to see what he actually used in his paintings, what materials, what pigments and all that. And they found chalk in a lot of old master paintings, like Rembrandt's. They found chalk because that was like a cheap substance that they can use to quickly thicken their paint while also keeping the color. And that's a little hack. I've never used it before, to be honest, because I've really never needed to. It's really good if you make your own pigments and you need to modify, but I also imagine that if you have chalk, you can the world is yours. Let's clean off this brush, and we're gonna go push these areas a bit further. So what I want to do right now is, let's take our orange color here. See, that's the other problem. I don't always keep my colors in order. So sometimes I have to make up my colors after the fact, which can be annoying a little bit because now I have to match the color, and that's not good because I'm not really that great at color matching. I know it's an important skill as a painter. But if I painted this like 1 week from now, you would totally be able to tell where I was like, you know, painting after, because there would be a slight shift in tone. Let me scratch that back. I'm not that bad at color matching, just sometimes I don't feel like doing it at the level that needs to be done. I take that back. I'm okay at color matching. But if I have a choice between, you know, matching this orange perfectly a week from now and, you know, just having a close match, I would probably be good with a close match. Like right here, it's going to be slightly more red. So, you know what, let's just go with this. We can run with this. We're going to go run with the slightly more red. And we're just going to blend this into the area here. Why not? But where this can be a problem is if this is like a week later and if you have a very specific area that's like, you can't really just paint over it like this. It really has to be as close of a color match as you can. So here we go. Let's grab our yellow. Let's go like this. And there we go, got up to the corner, and we can just go across the other way now. What's up, Pookie? Why are you sneezing? Who else talks to their cats like they're humans? I do. All right, here we go. Right across, bam, right across, bam. And hot orange, here we go. And honestly, I probably won't be able to do too much more of this painting tonight after I get this little area, because it has to be, I can't really paint over these areas if they're wet. So tonight, I'm probably gonna let this dry for a day or two, a couple days, and then get back to it to paint the rest of it. Why is there so many paint boogers coming off of this thing? That's annoying. Where are they coming from? Okay. And here we go. Add some more yellow. Get this pigment nice and go down with it. Let's see, right? That section, nice and still. Let's go like this, put this down, flip it around. I got the orange on top, which is perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is wonderful. On my next stream, I set this as a goal for myself. I think, someone asked me the other day, what have you done to really improve the quality of your streams? And you know what? My honest answer was like, I don't really improve the quality, right? Like, y'all see my streams, it's pretty much me streaming from the same place with, paintings. Now my skill has improved, but, how can I guess to me, what I took that as, like, on an actual level of taking feedback as a way to improve, and it wasn't feedback, but it was just like, what have you done to improve your streaming? And, to me, I'm thinking, what can I do to improve? And I think today, I'm realizing that I use a lot of, like, self-deprecating jokes, even though I talk about, like, saying the right things, being positive about your mistakes. So I think I've set a goal for my next stream here. I got to, I really need to check myself with the self-deprecating. Sometimes it's okay, but I think I do it a little more than I should. Oh, you know what? I gotta use this for gray now. So let's grab some of this white, and we're just gonna merge our gray here. Let me see how this color works. Nope. Gotta merge the gray. Merge the gray. So we're gonna lay down some white. A little bit of white. We're gonna mix it right onto canvas. Let's see how good we can possibly color match directly on the canvas. See how we can do. You know, earlier I was judging myself, I was criticizing myself about how good or bad I'm at this. But let's just see, right? Let's give ourselves a test. You can see I already added a little bit of red into it on accident. But, you know, it's better to just show yourself what you're capable of rather than trying to kind of talk your way in or out of something. So I can see that the value's a little bit lighter. And that's actually kind of close. But it's a little bit lighter, so... And then, you know, it didn't help that I added the pink in there. But let me see. We're going to go a little bit more white. And I want to make the gray a bit more dense. Just dabbing in our gray here. You know, we'll get a nice blend of like white and gray. And, you know, this isn't too complicated. It's, you know, it's just color math. I have so much white right now. So, you know, if I could spread it and then add more gray, hopefully we'll get something in between here. It's coming along. And then the question is, will it be good enough for our purpose? That is the question. Will it be good enough for our purpose? And I think for the most part, yes. All right, let's how do we manage this? Also, I think this brush is a little bit whacked out too. Really thin to paint here. I really should have cleaned the brush as good as I could have before I tried this. You know, now there's like remnants of the orange, but whatever. Maybe it's this brush. This brush is giving me all sorts of remnants that I don't want. Let's try this. A little bit of this. some mineral spirits onto this here. A lot of mineral spirit. Let's dip into here. Let's see. And smooth it out. Spread out the colors a little bit. Nope, that won't work. That's the problem with experimenting is, let's see. I want to try to get this like nice and clean and flat again. So maybe I just have to repaint it all over. Lay down the white. Get in our gray. I just want to get the surface like a nice consistent gray. Even if it's a little white, that's okay. But I just want the color consistent. And let me see here. So go down this edge. Clean off this edge here. Oh, got the orange. Alright, that's fine. Happy accidents. Happy accidents. Let's make lots and lots of happy accidents. Alright, and then doing this layer straight across to get our evenness. That's how you color match. You just repaint the whole thing. Alright, here we go. Got something here. Just want to even it out, even it all out. As good as we can. And I think that's okay. All right, so instead of color matching, we did something a little different. And let's see. Let's take a break for now. Actually, you know what? I want to do one more thing. I want to even out the paint. even at the paint here. So, you know, let's just make a little bit more vibrant, a little bit flatter. And then in a couple days, we'll be able to get to the fun part when it dries. And we might even be able to get the fun part later today, but we'll see. I don't know yet. I have that other painting I still haven't finished yet. So if I'm going to work on 2 paintings in a day, this one I should finish. All right, well, with that, everybody, with that, folks, with that, wonderful people of YouTube, I know all of you are absolutely fantastic, great, cool, awesome, exciting, likable, fantastic, great, super duper fantastic, expialidocious people. So I bid thee farewell for a little while. Let's see, cleaning off my brush here, or my palette knife, I should say. When it comes to this, like why I gotta switch, sometimes I take breaks just to like, you know, in between switching modes. Because like the side of the brain that I use to design this section versus the part of my brain that I'm going to be needing to do the next part are totally different. You know, this is just the design, the layout, the composition of the background. There's a lot of planning involved, and you got to like, you know, I think it uses different parts of your brain, right? Because in one hand you're thinking spatial recognition, you're combining that with like design and color theory and color math. You know, it's all fairly logical. It's all fairly logical stuff, somewhat objective. There are some rules that you don't necessarily have to follow. Not a rule like you have to follow it, but a rule like, you know, the rule of thirds. You don't have to follow it, but it helps you so you don't have to figure out everything time and time again. And when you're thinking through those things, sometimes switching to a different part of the brain, something a little bit less obvious, can be somewhat challenging. So that said, oh, here we go. This is hilarious. This does not need to be, I don't need this line here, but it's there. So, because it actually disappears and it kind of makes the painting look off, a little awkward now. I don't know, I'm not even sure I like these colors. Maybe later I might have to change them up at some point, but we'll see how the actual design goes before we, you know, do anything, make up anything too drastic. But take care, everyone. We'll be back later. Bye.